Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, students? I hope that you're all fine. Inshallah, in this video, we are going to start with Unit 7. And the title of the unit is Literature. And we are going to read about Charles Dickens. It's in your student books, page 58. So please, all of you, open your books, page 58, and take all the notes. Before we start with the lesson, let's just take a look at the outcomes of the lesson. So, you're expected that you will make and confirm predictions about Charles Dickens based on prior knowledge and evidence from the text. In general, we are going to learn about who? Charles Dickens. So, we are going to know some information about Charles Dickens, and you have to make predictions. What meaning of predictions? تنبؤات or توقعات about Charles Dickens before reading the text. Okay? Then you can read the text and take the evidence from it. Okay? So first we're going to, or I'll give you some information about Charles Dickens before reading the text that is about him. And you have to try to give me more information if you know. Then, confirm and clarify word meanings using dictionaries and glossaries. So here we are going to learn new vocabulary. And this vocabulary you can find them, or the words that you can find in the glossaries of your activity books. Demonstrate understanding of an informational text about Charles Dickens by answering questions. So then we are going to read the text and give the main idea. Then we are going to skim the text again in another video and answer some questions about Charles Dickens. Okay? Now, in this video, we are going to do the first and the second objects or objectives or outcomes. Okay? And we shall read the text in a whole and then answer a general question about Charles Dickens. Inshallah, in the next video, I'm going to explain the two parts of the lesson and give more comprehensive questions, oral comprehensive questions, then answer them. And at the end, we have to answer the questions that are on page 59. So let's start with this photo or this picture. Now you have this picture at the bottom, also at the top of of page 58 in your student box. So open your box, page 58, okay, and look at this picture. Who's this? This is Charles Dickens. This is who? This is Charles Dickens. Who is Charles Dickens? Is he a playwright? Is he a novelist? Is he a poet? Who knows about Charles Dickens? If you know about any information about him, just send me a sentence about him, or just what information I mean. Okay? So, can you name any of his books? Have you ever heard about his books? Well, I know Oliver Twist. Have you ever heard about it? Have you ever read the novel of Oliver Twist? Or have you ever watched the movie of Oliver Twist? What about Great Expectations? الآمال الكبيرة. Have you ever heard about it, read it, or even watched the movie of it? He had many books that he had written. Okay? Try to find some information about him and send it to me as soon as possible. Now, I'll give you an information about him. Let's just read it together. Charles John Hapham Dickens. So this is his full name. Charles John Hapham Dickens was an English writer. So he was what? He was a writer. He's an English writer. and social critic. Critic means ناقد. Okay? He created some of the world's best known fictional characters and is regarded by many as the greatest novelist of the Victorian era. So he created some of the world's best known fictional characters اللي هو ايش؟ شخصيات fictional خيال. Okay? شخصيات خيالية. And is regarded by many as the greatest novelist. So he was known as the greatest novelist of the Victorian era. era اللي هي حقبة فيكتوريا. Okay. Some of his best writings. So here we have 3 of his best writings. Examples of his writings. Oliver Twist, Great Expectations, and David Copperfield. And we are going to learn about Oliver Twist, by the way. We are going to read about it in this unit, inshallah. Okay, so these are some information about Charles Dickens. It's just it's not required to learn this information, but you have to know it at least. Okay. Now, here we have the vocabulary of the list of the text. You have a box at the top of the text with these words. Let's read them. Author, someone who has written a book. Someone who has written a book. مؤلف. Clerk, someone who keeps records or accounts in an office. كاتب سجلات. Okay? Someone who keeps records or accounts in an office. أو مسؤول سجلات خلينا نحكي. Journalist, someone who writes in news reports for newspapers, magazines, television, or radio. تمام? So he is someone who writes news reports for newspapers, magazines, television, or radio. Who is that? اللي بمعنى الكاتب في اللي خلينا نحكي احنا So it means صحفي. Journalist, صحفي. Lawyer, someone whose job is to advise people about laws, write formal agreements, or present people in court. محامي. Narrator, the person who tells the story in a book or a play. راوي. Novelist, someone who writes novels. كاتب الرواية. Playwright, someone who writes plays. مؤلف أو كاتب المسرحية. Poet, someone who writes poem. شاعر. Okay? So these are the words that you have to know English meanings and then Arabic meaning. Okay? To understand them more or well. Okay? Now let's move to the text now. I read it and you have to get the idea or the main idea of it. Also, you have to listen carefully to know the difficult words and how to pronounce them. Let's start. Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens was born on 7th of February 1812 in Portsmouth on the southern coast of England. He was a quiet boy who loved reading. When he spoke later of his childhood, he said that he remembered listening to children playing outside as he sat indoors. He always preferred reading to playing with other children. At the age of 12, life for his family changed very suddenly. His father had financial problems, so Charles was no longer able to attend school regularly, and he had to work at a factory. The loneliness he felt there was an important influence on his writing. The loneliness he felt there was an important influence on his writing, especially in his books, Great Expectations and David Copperfield. When he was 14, Charles stopped going to school altogether and started working as a clerk in a lawyer's office in London. He didn't like working there. Luckily, things changed for him again. Charles had always wanted to be a writer, and he became a very respected journalist. He became a very respected journalist. He began to write short pieces for publication in the newspaper. In 1836, a series of pieces called the Pickwick Papers appeared monthly in the newspaper and were very popular. Dickens was a famous author by them. Throughout his life, Dickens enjoyed traveling. He traveled to many countries writing novels and giving talks about the cruelty of slavery. Novels such as Oliver Twist and Dumpy and the Son highlighted the cruel treatment of people, especially children, and child labor in the 19th century. He died on 8th of June 1870 at the age of 58. So, when you have listened and read the text for the first time, do you think that Charles Dickens had a happy childhood? Do you think that Charles Dickens had a happy childhood? What do you think of that? Also, how many works were mentioned in the text? How many works of Charles Dickens were mentioned in the text? So, you have to answer these two questions. Okay? And in the next video, inshallah, I'm going to answer them to check your answers. Clear? So again, the first one, do you think that Charles Dickens had a happy childhood? And the second question, how many works were mentioned in the text? This is the end of today's lesson. Inshallah, I'll see you in the next video بإذن الله تعالى. يعطيكم العافية.